The holidays are a time of joy, family, and celebration. But what if there's a darker side to Christmas? Beneath the twinkling lights and cheerful carols, sinister stories unfold. Gather around as we dive into 5 spine-chilling Christmas horror stories that will make you think twice about what's lurking in the shadows this holiday season. From eerie encounters to unsolved mysteries, these tales are not for the faint of heart. Let's begin. Story number 1. The Gift That Never Came. In the snowy suburbs of Minnesota, 10-year-old Ellie waited by the fireplace for her dad, who worked late on Christmas Eve. Her dad had promised her a special present, a snow globe to add to her growing collection. Midnight came, but her dad never walked through the door. A few hours later, the family received a call from the police. His car had skidded off the icy road, but there was no sign of him inside. Distraught but clinging to hope, Ellie found a small, wrapped package on the doorstep the next morning. Inside was a snow globe, identical to the one her dad described. Assuming a neighbor might have found it in his car, she placed it on her shelf. That night, Ellie swore she heard faint whispers coming from the snow globe. When she shook it, a chilling scene appeared inside. A tiny version of her dad, trapped in the wrecked car, banging on the windows for help. The whispers grew louder, pleading, "Find me." The search for Ellie's dad continued, but he was never found. To this day, Ellie refuses to touch the snow globe, but every Christmas Eve, it mysteriously reappears on her mantle, filled with fresh snow. Story number 2. The Midnight Carolers. In a small English village, an old tradition involved carolers visiting homes at midnight on Christmas Eve. One year, a young man named Arthur, new to the town, heard soft singing outside his cottage. Peeking out, he saw a group of carolers dressed in Victorian clothing. Their voices were hauntingly beautiful, but something felt off. Curious, Arthur opened the door to offer them cider. The carolers stopped singing and stared at him in eerie silence. Their faces were pale, their eyes sunken. One of them handed Arthur a crumbling piece of paper with the lyrics to an old Christmas hymn he'd never heard before. They began to sing again, this time louder and with growing intensity. Arthur's vision blurred as a cold dread overcame him. When he awoke the next morning, the paper was gone, but a strange mark was left on his door. His neighbors told him the carolers hadn't been seen in over a century. They had all died in a fire on Christmas Eve long ago. Every year they visit one home to share their song, leaving behind an ominous warning for those who invite them in. Story number 3. The Silent Toymaker. A single mother named Clara struggled to afford gifts for her 8-year-old son, Ben. On Christmas Eve, she stumbled upon a quaint toy shop she'd never noticed before. Inside, an elderly toy maker offered her a beautifully handcrafted wooden soldier for free, saying, "Every child deserves a gift." Clara gratefully accepted it. That night, Ben placed the toy soldier on his nightstand and fell asleep. Clara was awakened by faint tapping noises. When she checked Ben's room, the soldier was no longer on the nightstand. He was standing upright on the floor, facing the door. Thinking Ben was playing a prank, she returned it to its spot and went back to bed. The next morning, Clara found muddy footprints leading from Ben's room to the front door. Ben swore he hadn't left his room. The toy soldier was gone, but in its place was a note that read, "He'll come back when you need him most." Years later, during a break-in, the soldier inexplicably returned, saving Ben's life. But at a horrifying cost, Clara would rather forget. Story number 4. The Crimson Christmas Tree. A family moved into an old Victorian house just before Christmas. While exploring the attic, they found a vintage artificial Christmas tree. It was an eerie shade of crimson, but they decided to use it for their holiday decor. As they decorated, the youngest child, Lily, began acting strangely. She claimed the tree talked to her and told her to hang the ornaments in a specific order. That night, the parents heard soft whispers coming from the living room. When they investigated, they found Lily sitting by the tree, her eyes wide and unblinking. The ornaments were rearranged into an unmistakable pattern, a series of concentric circles. The next morning, the family woke to find the tree gone, replaced by deep scratch marks on the floor. They later discovered that the house's original owner had been a murderer who used that very tree to lure his victims. Lily has no memory of the events, but every Christmas she draws pictures of the crimson tree with unsettling detail. Story number 5. The Visitor in the Chimney. One stormy Christmas Eve, a teenage boy named Danny stayed up late playing video games while his family slept. Around 2 a.m., he heard a loud thud from the chimney. Assuming it was a bird, he ignored it until he heard scratching sounds. Danny peeked into the fireplace and saw a pair of gloved hands gripping the edge of the chimney. Panicking, he grabbed a poker and shouted for his dad. The hands disappeared, but when his dad arrived, they found nothing. That morning, Danny's family discovered wet, sooty footprints leading from the fireplace to the front door. Years later, Danny learned about a series of unsolved burglaries in his town, all occurring on Christmas Eve. The intruder was known for sneaking in through chimneys. The footprints, however, never led away from the houses, and the burglar was never caught. To this day, Danny swears he saw the visitor again in his dreams, wearing the same gloves and a sinister grin. There you have it, 5 terrifying Christmas tales to keep you up at night. Which one gave you chills? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. Sweet dreams and happy holidays.